How's it going, guys? So today I want to talk about a really cool style in 3D that I'm seeing a lot in advertising. Last year, this year, just so much. Microsoft does it a lot with their computer ads, and a lot of other companies have been doing it as well. And before we get into it, the goal of this is to show you that these concepts are approachable, especially if you're a beginner. It's hard to really wrap your brain around how do I create these things. And what I want to show you is they're achievable, they're approachable, and they're not that difficult to do. It's just really knowing the ingredients. And today I want to give you kind of the ingredients, how to style your scenes so that you can move into animation, move into concepts, and doing things like that so you can feel a little bit more comfortable. So that's kind of what this whole video is about. We're not animating a whole ad. What I'm showing you is how you can create a scene with that style so you can move into animating it, making it look awesome, and all the other stuff you want to do. So we'll get right into that right after this quick shout out. Welcome to Real-Time Materials, a collection of customizable procedural materials compatible with Eevee and Cycles. With over 6 years of experience, I have created an add-on currently containing 240 materials across 14 surface categories. This add-on will speed up your workflow, allowing you to stay creative while maximizing your artistic output. You might be thinking, what about image textures? Image textures are easy to set up but don't give you any control. Real-time materials are loaded with custom properties, giving you the freedom to change roughness, color, and all kinds of patterns. You can change the shape of wood, the direction of cloth weave, and the size of scratches, among many other parameters. Even if you already know how to make procedural materials, imagine the time you will save if you could apply those materials in one easy click. All right, so when I was researching this style, I wanted to try to find what similarities do all of them or a lot of them have, and how can we recreate that in Blender. And so I made a Pinterest board just by researching, looking around, and like what do we see? And so I made a list of all the things that most of them have in common. So they like to use a lot of glass, round corners, orthographic camera angles are very popular. The use of gradients is abundant. They love gradients. And then I noticed there's a lot of white space, and then usually like one or two things have like a pop of color, soft shadows, large negative spaces, which typically are white, bold color, and then every once in a while you'll have like a natural surface like marble or wood, something like that. And so I went ahead and I created this scene right here, which encapsulates the majority of those styles into one scene, so we can kind of talk about each of those hitting points and how you can achieve them and how you can make something really cool. Big fan of this glass here, and that's a really cool piece of this tutorial here is the glass. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and open up a new Blender file, and let's go ahead and design this. So first off, round corners, soft edges are very, very popular. And so what I did was I was like, all right, how can we incorporate that? Let's do it on the floor. So I went ahead and I created just a cube here. And then what you can do is you can hit Tab, go to the Edge select, and go ahead and select these corners by holding Shift and select all four, and we'll skip to that. All right, all four of my faces have been selected. I do want to make sure I hit Control A and Applied Scale. And then we're just going to bevel them like that and hit the scroll wheel. And you can bevel them however you want. And then again, soft edges is a bevel, and that is a huge proponent of this style, is making sure you don't have any of those non-beveled edges. And it's pretty easy to do because a lot of this is just kind of default modeling, nothing crazy. And then let's go ahead and create that floor. That's going to be with an array. So we can just go ahead and just make it big. Make it really big, because I'm not sure how the scale of everything else is going to be. And then you can go ahead and apply another array. You can go ahead and apply another array, and then just bring it to the other side there. And what's that, 22? So we'll pop. There we go. That's our floor. And then I'm just going to go ahead and bring it to the center. Does not need to be precise. All right. So we've created our floor, and then I'm going to go ahead and make so that we can't see through the bottom. So here we have our floor so far. It looks cool, looks nice and modern. We love it. And then let's go ahead and create that stack of objects. And it was inspired by this piece I saw. Where is it at? Right here. These soft edges, things like that. And I really love that. And of course, the floor is inspired. Where'd it go? I want it back. Oh, right here. I thought this scene was just so cool, and I like how you can kind of see these kind of holes right here. You can hear my cat in the background jingling. So that's kind of where I drew inspiration for this whole scene so we can tackle this style. So now you know how to bevel in 2 different ways, because beveling is just king with this style. So let's go ahead and do the same thing with a cube. And I'm going to hold down Control and just pop him right there. He needs to come up just a tiny bit more. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to go ahead and bevel this now. Shade smooth. Let's add an array modifier and give it 3. Oops, that's the array modifier that. We'll add another array. And you can also do this in geometry nodes if you're a geometry nodes head. But I just wanted to keep this basic because this is relatively beginner focused. And we'll do another array on the z-axis using a strength of 1. All right, there we go. Now here's a fun little trick that I love to do. All right, so we have all of our arrays, and here's what I love to do. I'm gonna go ahead and apply, we're gonna be destructive here and apply everything. So I'm gonna go ahead, hover over here and hit Control A, right here, Control A, and that's gonna apply the array. I guess we might as well apply the bevel as well, because we're being destructive. What we can do is, hitting Tab in edit mode, hit F3 and type in separate, and then click by loose part. All right, so now that we have them, don't click away because they're all still selected. Hit M, new collection. We want them all in their own collection so that we can select all of them at the same time. So right here on box, select objects. And here's a fun little thing you can do now. In this style, everything is perfect in a sense. But what's fun about that is a lot of these artists and this style is add a little bit of imperfection. So we're going to do that within this right here. That was kind of my thought process when I designed this. So we're going to from object, transform, random transform. You have this box down here. So I'll bring that location here, location there, and they're intersecting, but it's okay. And then bring that rotation, kind of funky. And now we have this, some imperfection. And if some of it's just really bothering you, you can fix it like that. All right, so there we go. We have kind of our imperfect box. I'm going to select the objects and scale them down. And then, of course, bring him to the ground. All right, and I know it's not perfect. All right, so now we have this so far. Now, right now, we're just focusing on composition. We'll get into shading in a minute. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and select my camera, kind of aim right about here, Control-Alt-0, snap that to view. But I did forget one thing, which is kind of the flat portion that we put under it. So let's go ahead and design that. And so the way I created, let's see, go here, the way I created these things right here. So we're going to go here, go to curve, circle. I'm going to bring it up, scale it to something like this. And what you can do is in the modifiers, you can add a build modifier and then play with the start frame. And it's going to build that thing. It's going to basically take faces away or sections. And then you can go over here, go to geometry and extrude. Now that's extruding back to the modifiers to add a solidify. Solidify that however far in you want it to be. And then of course the all important bevel. And then we need to go back here and then on resolution preview, render preview, bring that all the way up. And you pretty much have it. And then bring it to the floor. I'm gonna hit Shift D and get another one for the center and extrude that one. Very cool. And then this one, I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate it, go back to the modifiers and remove all the modifiers. And then go back to these settings and remove the extrude. Now you have this wire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it in, hit Tab to go to the edit mode, Shift D, and then Shift D, boom. And then all you have to do now is go to the depth and model that in. And I'm not sure why it's doing that, but it's okay. All right, now we have this and we can bring our boxes, but I accidentally placed everything in there. I need to bring it here. So in our boxes, select objects, bring it down, and then I can just hit G, just kind of move it. Great. So this is what we have so far. It's awesome, it's cool, it's abstract, it's modern, it's the style that we want to go for, and hopefully this is giving you some inspiration already. Now what I'm going to do is get my camera, kind of position it right here. Camera, Control-Alt-0, snap to view. This is technically the composition that we want, but I mentioned orthographic. That is done in your camera. If you don't know what that is, you're about to see. So bring that camera into this collection. Just minimize that box. Perspective, orthographic. And that is going to create this really cool look, which is exactly what we want. I'm going to hit G. If you clicked on the camera here, you can hit G to move it, and then orthographic scale to go in and out. Now, another piece on composition. There's a lot of negative space in this style. And I wanted to mix up the different negative spaces because we have all of this, which is negative space, but I want to mix it up visually. And so what I did was I took a plane, brought it over here, brought it up, and then I just went ahead and extruded a negative value on the extrude, and then we're just going to go ahead and stretch it, and then bring it over here just to cover up, like right there. So you have this interesting look. And then I'm going to bevel, of course. Control A, apply that scale. You know, maintaining that beveled look so that now you have like flat negative space. And that's, say, if you're using this for a web ad, you can add small text here, large text here, because large text isn't messed up with these lines and this detail. Small text can live here because there's no detail. It's just gonna be flat, no interesting material. All right, so we're done with composition. Let's go ahead and save this and go into lighting. So if we look at my lighting here, we'll go back over here. Notice it's all kind of broken up. It's not just one big steady light. There's some shadow. And the way we did that was with my area light right here. So you can see how it works like that. Oh, that looks actually pretty cool. So we're gonna go ahead, and I have a tutorial specifically on this style, so if you've already seen it, I'm sorry if this is repetition. So let's go here, go to light, area light, and then I want it to kind of hit it this direction. And the reason why, it was like, all right, how do I handle my lighting? What did everyone else do? And I was specifically inspired by this scene here, where you can see the direction. You know the direction is based on the way that it's stretching. It's like, all right, so it looks nice coming from that diagonal rather than straight down. So I'm gonna hit G and move it over like this, and then hit R twice to point it right at whatever you want it to point at. And then for me, looks good. All right, and then I'm just going to scale it up. It'll probably need to be scaled up much farther. So now we can go to the camera view. Now this is only, I can't speak today. This is only possible in cycles with this specific lighting trick. That's just how we're dealing with it. So let's click on the light and click on use nodes, and let's pop over to the shading tab. And then I'm gonna go to the cycles preview. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and get a color ramp, plug that into the color, and then we're gonna go ahead and get whatever texture you want, but I think the noise texture looks the most natural. So plug that there, and then we can bring that strength up to, say, 5,000. Needs to be really powerful for this. Click on that, bring your spread to 1, and it's gonna do that. And then now we can go ahead and take this light and make it bigger. So now we have this situation happening. And then what you can do, since this noise texture is plugged in, just bring it in like this, and you now have something amazing. So just take your light and make it as big as it needs to be. Of course, the bigger the light, the stronger this needs to be. So now we'll go to like 20,000. Perfect. So bring that scale to 1, and then you can, you know, play with this detail. Maybe make it like detail of 12, doesn't matter. But now you have this, and maybe you can bring your scale farther down and bring this up like this. And then we need to reinforce that because these shadows are just incredibly harsh. So what we can do, we'll go back to layout here and go to the world color. And the reason why everything has a reason for this style. This is just turning into like a step-by-step tutorial. Notice how these shadows aren't so incredibly dark. And you'll notice that even on something like this, but it's all kind of sunlight. It's all natural light, except for these guys, that's artificial light. But you know, there's a trend here, like with this guy, sunlight, but the light is filled in. It's not these harsh shadows. How do we do that? It needs to be filled in by another world light. And that color is going to be here with the sky texture rather than using an HDRI. You'll bring that sun intensity to 0 and then your strength to like 0.5, maybe even 0.3. And now we have this where it's, you know, you're having some variation in color. 0.2 maybe. There we go. That's much better. Now you have this variation in color and light. And what's great is we go back to shading, we go from 3D to 4D. This light can be animated. And also if you add a mapping, the light can move. So that is how we do that. It's fun, it's cool, it's very useful. And I want to get a lot of light on this object here. All right, so now we can head into shading. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to bring my light bounces here. We'll just make them all 10. I know that's not the best way to do it, but we're going run and gun here. So we'll click on one of these cubes, add a new material, and then let's make it transmissive here, and then bring your roughness to like 0.1. And I'm going to go ahead and add this material to all of these boxes. So now all of our boxes have this glass material, and I'm going to show you 2 ways to make the glass stand out. So let's go here to the shading tab, and making glass stand out can be difficult, especially in Blender. Blender doesn't really handle glass that well. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna hit the period key to bring it here. So let's go ahead and get a little bit of color. Glass is very sensitive to color additions, so just be very careful with it. Now there's 2 ways. The first way is not my favorite, but it's pretty much should always work and look pretty good. So you click on this color here and you'll see HSV. Hue, saturation, value. Bring your value slider, so the darker it is, the less you can see it. So it's pretty bright now, and that might be good, but just say you want it to be brighter. You can go from 1, anything above 1 is not natural, so bring it to say 2. Super bright now, which is totally just ridiculous. So you can bring that down until you feel like your glass stands out enough, which is about around 1. Now this is cool, and let's go ahead and render it just to show you how nice this looks. And we can also give it more color now that it's super bright. So that's nice. And say the darker the color, the brighter we can make that value. But we don't want it to look realistic. We're going for stylized. Without the value, a lot say they like it better, and I agree, but we're going for stylized and we need a focal point. So let's render this and show you how cool this looks. So this is what we have so far. It looks awesome. But I came up with a alternate way to do this where the value can just be back where it was. It was like 0.9, something like that. What you can do is play with your emission. So let's go ahead. We'll get a color ramp, plug it to the emission, and we'll get in a layer weight using facing, blend to 0.2, and then bring this in and then make the color in the same family that we're already dealing, and then bring this emission to like 30. And you can bring this in like that. And it creates this really cool, interesting look. And it's going kind of bonkers right there. But this is what we're going with. And what this allows is the glass can stay a little bit darker, but have these really interesting highlight edges. And that's not supposed to happen. In the original design, the emission looks like this. So some alternate stuff going on. But regardless, this is kind of the style we wanted, that I wanted here. Where, and the pro and the con, there's a pro and the con to doing this. The pro is you do get like more obvious edges on your cube. So you can see the cubes, you can make out the edges of each cube much better. Or we go to the value here. Sorry. In this case, you're not getting more like super obvious edges, but you also don't need it. But see how that looks as opposed to this. So those are two options you have for getting your glass to be really cool and really beautiful and really interesting. And then now I mentioned just natural elements, and I can actually just quickly do that. We're gonna go here to wood, and let's pick this light colored wood and apply that. So now you have some natural elements, and we can make this metallic, and you can pull from whatever materials you like to use. So now we have natural elements bringing you a focal point. You have a lot of negative space. You have soft shadows, soft lighting. It looks nice. It looks great. And that is how you pull off this look. What I'm going to do is zoom my camera in a little bit because it's a little too far out. And then I'm going to bring this in to kind of reinforce that composition. Let's go ahead and render this and call it a day. All right, and this is our final product. Again, this is a little goofy here. I would go back and fix it. But this was a quick recreation. But in terms of tackling that style and showing you the approachability of it, that's what I wanted to get across, and I hope you got that. This style is super fun. I love looking at it. Interested to see what happens in 2023 with it. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next tutorial.